The second example, we want to examine what it means for two figures to be similar versus congruent. Congruent, we're exactly the same size and shape, so corresponding sides and angles are congruent. With similar figures, we have kind of a mixture of that. Their corresponding angles are congruent, but the corresponding sides can be in a different scale factor. So in essence, similar figures have the same shape, but are not necessarily the same size. They're either a scaled up or scaled down version, enlargement or reduction of our other triangle or figure. So in similar figures, corresponding angles are congruent, we said, and the corresponding sides have to be proportional is another way of saying they must be in the same scale factor. So if we get this diagram of these two triangles and they give us the triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF, you're going to have to focus in on the similarity versus the congruency figure. So if they're similar, we know that angle A has to be exactly the same size as angle D as listed in the correspondence. Angle B has to be the same size as angle E, and we're going to just double check. We got a double tick mark, and C and F are the same. Now the thing that's a little bit different about similar triangles, we have to make sure that we look for the corresponding sides being the same scale factor or proportional. So we're going to see these proportions written here. If I take the first two letters AB in the correspondence, that means side AB corresponds to DE. So the AB, which has a length of 4, has to be the same scale factor as DE to all the other sides. So that's a 4:2 ratio. We're going to go look at the next two. Side BC has to be in the same proportion as side EF. So we got BC to EF. If we track those down, are they in the same correspondence? It's a 6:3, and 6:3 is a ratio of 2. This one is 2 times larger than our one to the right, or this one is half the size of the one to the left. And finally, the last correspondence, AC, that side AC has to correspond to DF. So AC to DF, so if we make the comparison in the proportion, if we go AC is 8 and DF is 4, we have a scale factor of 2, or they're all proportional. So the way that we're going to determine if two figures are similar is their corresponding angles must be congruent and their corresponding sides must be in the same scale factor. So there's two requirements that need to be met here. In example 2, just determine if they are similar. So in order to determine if these two figures are similar, you can quickly determine they are not similar because their corresponding angles are not the same. This angle that corresponds to any one of these other angles is not a 90, so right off the top we know that these are not similar because of the fact that they do not have corresponding angles. So the corresponding angles are not congruent using the symbols. So that's the easy check on that one. What I also want to come through on this one with is check the ratio of the sides. Even though we've already established they're not similar, would the other criteria be met? Would they have the same scale factor? So if I take the ratio of sides, 4:3, is a 4:3 ratio as the other corresponding side, which is 8:6. And the other corresponding sides, this one corresponds to 4, so that's a 4:3 ratio. And then our 6:8, but I got to make sure I go in the same order, 8:6, because I went from the large one to the small one each time. So if we looked at all these ratios, if you think about an 8:6 ratio, an 8:6 ratio reduces down to a 4:3 if we divide both of them by 2. So if we reduce it by a factor of 2, we'll get a 4:3 ratio. So even though the sides are proportional, the corresponding angles are not congruent, therefore they cannot be similar. So quick and easy check is check your angles first. If they match and they're equal, then I would go and check your corresponding side.